Your full name for the record?
Yes, Stephen, middle initial L, last name Robinson.
Thank you.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Dr. Robinson.
Good morning.
Sir, where do you work?
Broward County Medical Examiner's Office and Trauma Services.
Okay, and how long have you worked there?
7 years, 10 months.
And what's your position there?
Deputy Chief Medical Examiner.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about your background, training, and the education you received to become the Deputy Chief Medical Examiner?
Yes, I guess we can start with a bachelor degree, undergraduate degree from Syracuse University. From there, Howard University Medical School, MD degree. From there, residency training in anatomic and clinical pathology, ending in board certification in both. From there, a 1-year fellowship in forensic pathology, ending in board certification in forensic pathology.
Can you just move a little bit closer to the microphone? I'm sorry, the court reporters have a tough time here.
Okay.
Hey, Doctor, if you can, just raise the volume a tiny bit and the speed a little slower. I think it'll be easier for everyone to understand.
Okay, slower and louder.
Yes, there you go.
Okay. Repeat, should I repeat or are we good?
I think we got it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what an autopsy is?
An autopsy is a post-mortem examination. With the goal is to determine cause of death, collect evidentiary material if applicable, and in some cases to help determine the manner of death, and also identification in some cases.
Okay. And during the course of your entire history doing this type of work, approximately how many autopsies have you performed?
Somewhere around 2,000 north or south.
Okay. Now, in addition to working at the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office, did you have any other experience in forensic pathology?
I did.
And what was that?
Prior to Broward County, I was the Deputy Armed Forces Medical Examiner.
And what did you do in that role?
I was, at that time, I was active duty Navy, and we performed post-mortem examinations or medical legal examinations that were, had federal interest. Okay.
And I want to zoom in now to this case for the reason that we're here today. Mm-hmm. On October 6th of 2017, did you perform an autopsy on someone identified as Nicholas Wilcox?
I did.
Okay. And approximately what time did you conduct that autopsy?
10:10 a.m.
Okay. And can you describe the condition of Mr. Wilcox's body when it was received at the medical examiner's office?
When we received the decedent, he was actually wrapped in 2 tarps and some assorted blankets. Both tarps were sealed with black adhesive tape, and I believe 1 belt was also present.
And you're under permission to approach?
You may approach.
Okay, Dr. Robinson, I'm going to show you 4 photographs that have been trademarked. States KK, LL, MM, and NN. If you could take a look at these, let me know if you recognize them.
Okay. I do.
Accurately depicts what you just described to us when you received Mr. Wilcox's body?
They do.
Judge, at this time, statement seeks to admit what's been trademarked KK, LL, MM, and N, 37 through 40.
All right, that'll be admitted as State Exhibits 37 through 40. May publish.
Dr. Robinson, starting with states 37. Tell us what we're looking at in this photograph.
Basically, this is photographs taken during our accessioning process. This case was sealed with identification tags, and basically this is an intake photo to show that the seal was received unbroken.
Okay, and Dr. Robinson, in the top right corner, excuse me, we see a placard with the number 173256. Can you tell us what that number is and why you use it?
Okay, basically the number 17-3256 is our medical examiner number. Every case that comes to our office is assigned a number for tracking purposes.
Okay, so any photograph or any documentation or any samples or anything like that pertaining to this case will be assigned that same number?
That is correct, yes.
And then just kind of moving counterclockwise a little bit, there's a tag on there that starts with removal transportation services. Can you tell us what we're looking at there and what the purpose of that is?
That is a tag basically applied to by our removal services that has the identification information for the decedent.
Okay, and then kind of around 6 o'clock, we see a red tag there. Can you tell us what that is?
The red tag, that's the actual seal with the number 067682. That's applied at the scene. And this shows that the evidence and the contents of the bag were not open prior to our arrival.
Okay, and then lastly, that small brownish orange envelope.
I believe that's applied by our techs when it's received by our office. As our additional number, we put the weight. The height is not known at the time because we haven't opened the bag. And then the BTB means believed to be. Formal identification had not yet been made at this time.
Okay. Showing you states 38. What is this photograph showing us?
This is a photograph of the decedent as received in our office after we removed the white bag with the seal. This was the contents. This is one of 2 tarps that the decedent was wrapped in, and with numerous black adhesive portions of tape and a belt.
States 39.
This is after the outer tarp is removed, and I believe this also the inner tarp has been opened, and this is the decedent believed wrapped in some sheets and blankets.
And states 40.
Again, another view. It looks like it might be just a view of the inner tarp with the outer tarp removed.
Now, Dr. Robinson, did you yourself remove that tarp from Mr. Wilcox's body?
I assisted, yes.
Okay. Now, after the body was removed from that tarp, what is the next step in the process that you do?
The next step in that process is we do a complete external examination with photo documentation, and we also, in this particular case, we're keeping an eye out to obtain any potential of material of evidentiary value.
And Dr. Robinson, these photographs, do you take photographs in every single autopsy you perform?
We do.
Okay, and what's the purpose of the photographs?
Documentation of what we do to in support of our written report.
Okay, and when the photographs are they taken sort of in order from start to finish during the course of the autopsy?
We have an order, yes.
Okay. Judge, permission to approach?
You may approach.
Dr. Robinson, showing you what's been pre-marked states OO, PP, and QQ. We'll look at these 3 photographs.
Okay.
you recognize these photographs?
I do.
Accurately depict the photos that were taken of Mr. Wilcox's autopsy.
That is correct.
Judge, at this time, state would seek to admit what's been pre-marked OO, PP, and QQ as 41 through 44, 43.
All right, that will be admitted as State's Exhibits 41, 42, and 43.
And Your Honor, permission to publish?
You may publish.
And Dr. Robinson, do you take photographs of different portions of the body and the body its entirety before it's cleaned off?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Showing you states 44. Can you tell us what we're looking at in this photograph?
This is a photograph of the, basically an uncleaned photograph, or what we say is as-is photograph, pre-washed, of the left hand of our case 173256, bearing a metallic ring on the fourth finger.
And these marks that we see, what are those marks?
That's blood that hasn't been washed away yet.
Showing states 42.
And this is our case 173256 photograph of the right hand.
Okay. And states 43. And for modesty's sake, I'm going to cover up the bottom part of this photograph. But can you tell us, Dr. Robinson, what we're looking at in this photograph?
Again, this is a as-is or pre-cleaned photograph taken after actually all tarps and blankets had been removed from the decedent. Our case 173256.
Okay. Now, after that photograph was taken, ultimately, was the body washed off and cleaned?
Yes.
Any other alterations made to the body? Was head shaved or anything like that?
Yes.
Permission to approach?
You may approach.
Dr. Robinson, showing you what's been pre-marked, states RR, SS, TT, and UU. Can you take a look at those 4 photographs? Let me know if you recognize them.
Okay. Yes,
Accurately depict Mr. Wilcox during the course of the autopsy.
they do.
Judge, at this time, state would seek to admit what's been pre-marked, states RR, SS, TT, and UU, as states 44 through 47.
All right, that'll be admitted as States 44, 45, 46, and 47.
Dr. Robinson showing you states 44. Can you tell us what we're looking at in this photograph?
We're looking at one of our facial identification type photograph after the decedent has been cleaned up, our number 173256.
Okay, and what's the purpose of this photograph?
It's an identification photograph that we keep in our files.
States 45.
Basically, this is again our case 173256. This is a photo showing the injuries to the chin and lower lip.
States 46.
This is a profile shot 173256 from the left side, showing the injuries from on that side of the face and head.
States 47.
Again, 173256. This is a right showing injuries to the right side of the head and face.
Permission to approach?
Okay.
Dr. Robinson showing you this been pre-marked states VVWWXXYY. Take a look at those four
Okay.
photographs.
Yes.
Recommend them?
Yes,
Accurately depict photos taken in Mr. Wilcox's autopsy.
they do.
Judge, this time state would seek to admit what's been pre-marked VVWWXX and YY as states 48 through 51.
All right, that'll be admitted into evidence 48 through 51 states exhibits.
Your Honor, permission to publish? Dr. Robinson, starting with states 48. Okay, what do we see depicted in this photograph?
This is a frontal facial shot, 173256. Basically what we're showing is the injury to the lower lip and the gum and teeth behind that lower lip.
Okay, and Dr. Robinson, sort of in the dead center of the photograph, there's a black void there in between the two teeth. Is that the way Mr. Wilcox's mouth was naturally, or is that due to an injury?
That's injury. That's what we're looking at there is actually fracture of the mandible or jawbone.
States 49.
This is, I don't see our number. Is our number in there?
Sorry.
Ah, there we go. Our number is 173256. This is a cleaned up photograph of the left hand minus the metal ring.
Okay. States 50.
Again, this is our case 173256, a cleaned up view of the right hand.
States 51.
Okay, this is the right side, right face, and head of our case 173256, showing the injuries to the scalp. What we've done in this photograph is shave the hair so we can clearly see the injuries that are on the scalp.
Now, Dr. Robinson, in addition to taking the photographs of the injuries, do you also document each injury with a specific letter?
I do.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that process and how you go about doing that?
On this particular cases, the letters we resolve to the injuries to the neck, and basically it's a random process. We start with A. Every doc has his system of doing it. I basically go top to bottom, right to left.
In addition to the photographs and the markings of the injuries, you also author a report for each autopsy you perform, correct?
I do.
And in your report, do you go through and describe each injury that you've labeled?
I do.
Now, before we look at any more pictures, in this autopsy of Mr. Wilcox, can you tell us just overall, in general, the injuries that he had?
Overall, injuries to the head and neck. He had basically essentially two groups of injuries. He had blunt force injuries. Those are injuries caused by an object that's rounded or otherwise does not have a cutting edge to it. Those are predominantly of the head. The lower part of his face and his neck, he had what we call sharp force injuries or incised injuries, and those are injuries caused by an object that has either a cutting edge or some sort of sharp edge to it.
And how many blunt force injuries did he have?
He had at least 6.
And how many sharp force?
6 stabs, 7 cutting, 13 total.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
You may.
Dr. Robinson showing you 4 photographs pre-marked as dates ZZ, 3A, 3B, and 3C. Can you take a look at these 4 and let me know if you recognize them?
Yes,
Accurately represent Mr. Wilcox's autopsy.
they do.
Judge at this time state would seek to remit it's been pre-marked ZZ, 3A, 3B, 3C is states 52 through 55.
Right, that'll be admitted into evidence as States Exhibits 52 through 55.
And Your Honor, permission to publish?
May I publish?
Dr. Robinson, starting with states 53. What are we looking at in this photograph?
We're looking at a facial view of our case 17-3256. Basically, we have our ruler with our number on it, and it's being this photo was taken to show the injuries of the central face and forehead.
And states 54.
This is a right side view, right face and head of our case 17-3256. This photograph was taken to show the injury to the right ear.
And Dr. Robinson, we discussed those markers, and we'll start with A, states 52. Okay. Can you just tell us what we're looking at in this photograph and what the little marker is?
Sure. We're looking at, again, this is a frontal view of the front of the neck. There is an injury that the marker A, the tip is pointing to. This was a penetrating stab wound.
Okay, and this particular wound, do you know how deep this wound was?
1.5 inches.
And states 55.
Again, 17-3256. This is a closer view, a frontal view of the anterior frontal surface of the neck, wound A.
Dr. Robinson, are you able to tell us what caused those wounds, or any of the wounds on Mr. Wilcox's body?
Again, we've separated into two broad categories, as we talked about before. Blunt. The head injuries and the scalp injuries were blunt injuries, again, by a blunt object without an edge or cutting surfaces. Could be any rounded surfaces. Then the neck wounds were incised, meaning they were caused by something sharp, something with a cutting edge or a sharp edge to it.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
May.
Dr. Robinson showing you it's been pre-marked 3D, states 3E, 3F, 3G, 3H. Let's take a look at those.
Okay.
Recognize them?
Yes.
Photographs taken from Mr. Wilcox's autopsy? Dr. Robinson?
I'm sorry.
Photographs taken from Mr. Wilcox's autopsy?
Yes.
Okay. Judge at this time seek to admit what's been pre-marked 3D, 3E, 3F, 3G, and 3H as 56.
Is that 3D? Yeah, 56 to 60.
All right, that'll be admitted into evidence as states exhibits 56 through 60. Publish.
And Dr. Robinson showing you states 56.
Ken, what we're looking at is the front left side of the neck, 173256. This is designated by the indicator as wound B.
Okay. And again, is that a sharp force injury?
It is.
Okay, and approximately how deep is that injury?
This one also was approximately 1.5 inches in depth.
Page 57.
Okay, the case 173256. This is kind of close, but I believe we're the right side of the neck, just under the chin. That is our wound C, as indicated by the orange pointer.
Okay, and again, sharp force injury?
Yes, this is also sharp force injury.
Okay, and the depth of that?
This one was termed a cutting wound or incised wound, and this one had a depth of approximately 1/4 inch.
658.
Again, we're the front right side of the neck, lower portion, 173256, and this is our wound designated as D, as shown by the orange pointer.
Okay, and what type of wound is D?
D, it's a stab wound, which with a maximum depth of approximately 1 1/4 inches.
Page 59.
This is our case 173256, a little blurry. Better. This is, we're looking at the lower right side of the neck, almost getting to the chest, and this is designated as wound E, as shown by the orange marker.
Okay, and what type of wound?
E is also a penetrating stab wound, and that had a maximum depth of approximately 2 inches.
And state 60.
Okay, actually, this is showing what we call a group of 2 wounds, 173256. This is the middle part, lower neck, almost upper chest. And what we're showing is the 2 wounds on either side of the pointer, the orange pointer designated F.
Okay. And a stab wound?
But a group of 2 penetrating stab wounds, yes.
Dr. Robinson, I'm going to show you states 44 once again. The injuries that we see here in this area of Mr. Wilcox's face, are those stab wounds?
Those are not. That is blunt force injury.
And how are you able to tell that?
Basically, we see the abrasion pattern around the actual wounds. These are lacerations, which are actually tears in the skin caused by something that impacts the skin, doesn't cut it, but tears it. And when you have that tearing, it causes marks on the skin that you don't see in sharp force injuries like we saw on the neck. Plus the level of skull injury associated with this is consistent with a blunt force and not a stabbing.
Okay. And though we didn't see a photograph of it, in addition to the pictures we did see, were you able to look, for lack of a better phrase, were you able to look underneath Mr. Wilcox's skin?
I was.
Okay. And can you just describe what that looks like and what that process is?
Basically, and you can probably get a sense that from looking at that the face has a dent in it. Basically, most of the bones of the face were crushed. The skull was multiply fractured. The brain was injured.
And Dr. Robinson, again, showing you states 48. This injury that we discussed earlier, is that a blunt force injury?
Yes, this is also a blunt force injury.
And states 654. These injuries we see here to the side of Mr. Wilcox's head, stab wounds or blunt force injuries?
The scalp injuries, and those are the areas where we shave the hair, that's all consistent with blunt force injury because you can see the abrasion surrounding the break in the skin that we talked about. The ear, most likely a blunt force injury just because of the tearing pattern and not a clean incised injury.
And Dr. Robinson, during your autopsy of Mr. Wilcox, were you able to ascertain his height and weight?
We did. He was 189 pounds, and he was a length of 69 inches.
And Dr. Robinson, as part of your duties, do you opine cause and manner of death?
I do.
Okay, and when I say the phrase cause of death, what does that mean?
Cause of death is the actual mechanism or biologic malfunction that caused the person to die.
Okay. And in Mr. Wilcox's case, what was his cause of death?
Basically multiple blunt and sharp force injuries.
Okay. And when I say manner of death, what does that phrase mean?
Manner of death is an opinion based on the autopsy findings and circumstances surrounding how the injuries occurred, determines how we decide manner.
Okay. And what are the various manners of death?
Currently we're using 5. It's undetermined, natural, suicide, accident, homicide.
And in Mr. Wilcox's case, what was his manner of death?
We determined his manner of death to be homicide.
Okay. And when you say homicide, it's not necessarily a legal definition, it has a medical sort of definition. And what is that definition?
Correct, and it's a medical opinion, basically meaning the death occurred at the hands or the actions of another.
Okay. As opposed to something like suicide where it's the hands of oneself.
Correct.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Robinson.
Good morning.
So, let me start off with, you are obviously very well credentialed, but you are not an expert in physics, correct?
That is true.
Okay. So in order to determine, or would you be able to determine the weight, strength, height of the person who killed Mr. Wilcox?
No, I could not.
And it appears to you, because you don't have the weapons, it appears to you that 2 different objects may have been used, right?
Either that or 2 different edges or sides of the same weapon.
Okay, so it could have been a long object that can be used for the blunt injuries, but it also could have a sharp edge on the other end, I guess is possible?
That's a possibility, yes.
Now, the stab wounds that we see, right, I think you called them sharp injuries?
Sharp
or
force,
incise.
yes.
They don't look, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't look like a typical, if someone were using a sharp object like a knife, they don't look like a typical stab wound. They look kind of stretched out. Am I correct in that?
Well, they do look like typical stab wounds because the skin has lines of turgor. So when you cut the skin, depending on what, with the grain or without, against the grain, if you will, the wounds will stretch out.
Okay. So they look to you, although to people who are not in this field, they look wider than I think we would think a stab wound would be, but to you they're consistent with a sharp object like a knife.
They are, correct.
Now, let's go back to how you first received the body. You said there were 2 tarps and also a blanket, correct?
Correct, yes.
And they were wrapped, or Mr. Wilcox was wrapped tightly in those with lots of duct tape around it.
Correct, black adhesive tape, yes.
And also the belts. I don't remember if we could see the belts in the pictures, but do you remember?
There was one belt that was difficult to see.
Okay. Pretty clear that somebody inside something like that would not be able to survive if they even had been put in alive, meaning they would not be able to breathe.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was airtight or not. I couldn't say.
Okay. Now, after he is unwrapped from all of the tarps and whatnot, you showed pictures, or Ms. McGuire showed you pictures of Mr. Wilcox's hands, right?
Yes.
After unwrapping him, crime scene was there as well. I think it was crime scene tech Hanlon.
They were. Crime scene was there, yes.
Crime scene was there from Plantation Police Department.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they collected fingernail clippings from Mr. Wilcox.
I think we did.
Okay, but you know that fingernail clippings were collected.
Correct, yes.
And those items are given to the crime scene unit for processing?
Correct.
Right, you guys don't keep those?
No, it's turned over.
Okay. And other samples of blood, tissue, what have you, are also retained?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Yes, Judge. Dr. Robinson, showing you states 49. Again, a photograph of Mr. Wilcox's hand. Any defensive wounds on this hand?
Could you raise the number up?
Sorry.
Funny that way. No, we didn't. We, after cleaned up an inspection, we didn't find any evidence of defensive injuries or injuries on his hands.
States 42.
Again, this will be his right hand, and no, we did not. Even after cleaning, we didn't find any evidence of injuries on his hands.
Okay. No defensive wounds?
Correct.
No defensive wounds on his forearms?
No.
Okay. And Dr. Robinson, when I say that phrase, defensive wounds, what does that mean?
In the literature, defensive wounds are typically, wounds that have been associated with defensive posture. Wounds usually, typically the hands and arms, and because these are the instruments that we would use if someone is attacking us and we're defending ourselves. In some cases, depending on circumstances, if the scene is on the ground, let's say, you can actually even see injuries that can be associated with defense on the legs and thighs also.
Okay. So defensive wounds quite literally means you're trying to protect your center mass, your face, your head, your center body.
Correct. It's our natural instinct when someone is coming, you just throw up for protection. Yes, correct.
Okay, and you indicated a natural instinct, but when you see someone coming?
Correct.
Okay. So if perhaps Mr. Wilcox had been asleep, would that explain?
Objection, speculation.
Well, if he can answer within his expertise as a ME, I'll allow him to attempt to answer it. You can ask the question.
So Dr. Robinson, in your opinion, does lack of defensive wounds indicate that Mr. Wilcox did not see this attack coming?
Objection to lack of personal knowledge.
As to that specific question, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Dr. Robinson. Thank you.